Hello everyone. I saw this thing on the news this morning and I wanted to talk about it because I find it so ridiculous. But aside from that, I just want to pause for a second and let you know my face is flushed. It's not makeup, it's not blush. I had a doctor's appointment today. We're working on some medication for me because, I'm in my 50s now, so my hormones are wired. And the medication does things. I addressed it in a video a while back, but it makes my face flushed. It makes me super hot and sweaty. It also causes dry mouth, and it causes my heart to pound out of my chest. It's not pleasant at all. However, I just wanted to say that because, sometimes when I upload a video, people get triggered by things. This actually coincides with the video topic I'm going to discuss, so this is kind of funny. People get triggered by other people's appearances, and I don't want this to deflect on the message here in my video today. A woman in another state, not here, she has some birds flying around her roof. Now, seagulls can be problematic. They're messy. They love to dig through the garbage cans. They're especially a nuisance on beaches. We have a public beach here that's massive. Beautiful boardwalk. It's got some carnival rides. It's got an ice cream parlor. I don't know if there are any boutiques there still. I haven't been there in a while. They used to have mini golf, things like that. And the seagulls will go onto the beach itself where they have the big garbage cans and dig garbage right out of the cans and leave it strewn all over the beach. So I know around here, seagulls are a nuisance in the way that this news video was talking about. I saw her saying that a neighbor reported her and there's a lawsuit now over it. It seems like these are just natural wild birds that are surrounding her house. There could be more to the story though, because there is an actual lawsuit. The neighbors are suing her. The point I'm getting at is we live in a society now where people complain and report each other for everything. I had a coworker, and I worked with this guy for at least 5 years before he retired. He was around 65 years old. He was in his house where he's lived since he was a kid. It was his mother's house before his. Now he lives there with his family. And he has his living room window open one evening, and he has a turntable. He loves records. And he's listening to his music, and somebody reported him to the police. The police show up. He can see his driveway from his living room window. He looks out. He sees the police there. His family was all home, so he didn't really know what this was about. And a neighbor complained, not because he was playing his record player, not because she could hear it through the window, but because of the song selection he was playing. And it offended her, and it caused her to be concerned. Can you imagine sitting outside or with your window open, maybe a drink in the hand, maybe a plate with a slice of cake, just settling down for the evening? You worked hard all day, you had your dinner, you're trying to enjoy yourself, and somebody calls the police on you because they don't like Led Zeppelin. Thankfully, I've never had that happen to me. But it doesn't shock me. I have had other things happen though. I've seen this more and more in the world we live in today. There's a line between trying to do good and causing harm. Sometimes it's just a misunderstanding. Sometimes people lash out at us unjustly. But we have to keep in mind it's them, not us. Who needs the drama and the bad day from that? About 25 years ago, I lived on the bottom level of a 2-story condominium complex. So I was in the bottom unit, and another person was on the top unit. these top units had little balconies that came out of the kitchen. Then there was a slider, then a little small back deck, and then a balcony where you could look over into the grassy area of the yard there. The woman who lived in that upper unit, she didn't have a very easy life. I could have sympathy and compassion for her, knowing what she had been through. She lost a child, and from what I'm told, that's one of the hardest things anybody can go through. So, knowing that, I would never have gone out of my way to be mean or rude or anything to this woman. It's nothing but kindness for this woman, okay? I didn't know her, but she was my upper neighbor. She had a really, really bad habit. Bad habit. When she would mop her kitchen floors, she would take that dirty water, which consisted of cleaners, bleach, dirty water from her house. Gross, right? And she would flip it over the balcony. And when she would do that, guess where it landed? Right smack on the outdoor furniture down below where the patio came off of the unit I lived in. Every day, there she goes, pouring that dirty mop water bucket right over onto my patio furniture. I never said anything, although I had every right to. I just let it go. I knew her struggle in life. I knew that she was not well. I knew that she had way worse problems in the world than I did. So I wasn't going to make a problem. I just knew I wasn't going to live there forever. It was temporary. And I pretty much just shoved my furniture back so that when it did come down over that railing, it hit the patio pavers instead of my patio furniture. But, things like that. Some people just don't think, and they don't think of the consequences when they are doing something, especially if it becomes a habit for them. And with 8 billion people on the planet, or however many we have now, I'm surprised any of us at all can get along so well, because we all have a different personality. We all have different triggers. We all have different livelihoods. And I think what helps a lot is when you have a mindset of just knowing that the other person might have troubles or might have problems that you're not aware of, and everybody is dealing with something. At least that's what I try to keep in mind when I think of my neighbors, my friends, strangers in the supermarket. Wherever I'm at, I'm always thinking, well, that person could just be having a bad day. Unless they do something physically egregious to me or my family, I usually try to take a step back and be like, okay, well, it is what it is. There are things we can control. There are things we can't. I was not going to get into a war with this woman over her bleach water. I just wasn't. If she didn't have enough sense to know that that was disgusting and that was dumping on my personal belongings, then, in all honesty, I don't think I could fix her anyway. There was no telling her anything. So I just let it go. Fast forward a couple of months. Summertime came. The father of my children, who owned the condominium at the time, we were newly married. We both had professional careers at this time. We would both get home about 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. Both of our jobs were stressful, pretty high stress, to be honest. And even though we were younger, we were in late 20s at the time, the last thing we wanted to deal with was a neighbor complaining about something we were doing. We always tried to keep to ourselves. We always tried to be respectful of everybody else. But this one fateful day, we had hung a small bird feeder in the patio area, in our space, not her space, in our space. Very small little tube bird feeder. And the neighbor actually came down and pounded on the door. It was not my condominium, so I wasn't involved. I went in the other room because I didn't know who it was, and I didn't want to be in the middle of something. She complained that a raccoon climbed up her balcony, got into her cooler, and ate her lasagna. Okay, so knowing that the woman was not all there, knowing that she continuously poured bleach water on our patio furniture and had no problem doing it without concern or care for us or our belongings, now she's here at the door ranting and raving and complaining that a raccoon climbed up her balcony and ate the lasagna out of her cooler on her deck. Okay, so when I heard that, I kind of came out of the back room and I said, what in the world does that have to do with us? And she said, because we put the bird seed out. But this woman said we were to blame because of our little tiny tube bird feeder. I said, but ma'am, if you take a step back and just think about it for a minute, did you not have lasagna in the cooler, did I hear? And she said, well, yeah, what does that have to do with it? I said, are you serious right now? You don't know what that has to do with it? And she said, no, I don't see why that would have to do with anything. The bird seed is what drew the raccoon here. I said, oh, wait, let me get this straight. So you're saying if we didn't have the bird seed hanging, that the raccoon would not have climbed up your porch, balcony, and gotten into the cooler to eat your lasagna? She said, that's right. Okay, well, is there a particular reason why you had lasagna outside in a cooler? She said, yeah, it was left over from a party. This is an example of how a neighbor was adamantly complaining that we had done something to her, which we did not do. The raccoon was going to come up that balcony anyway to have that lasagna. I'm sure the raccoon could smell the lasagna. So with or without that little tiny tube bird feeder there, the raccoon was going to find the lasagna, but she couldn't understand this. Lasagna has a very pungent smell, especially when it's bad and rancid, and it had been sitting out in a cooler since the weekend, so it was bad and rancid. I'm surprised she didn't dump that over the balcony onto the patio. However, she didn't stop there. She called the homeowners association to complain. When the homeowners association heard that we hung the bird feeder, because of course she didn't tell them about the lasagna in the cooler, she just told them about the bird feeder. They wrote a letter and said we had to remove the bird feeder or we would face fines. This woman is complaining that we had this little tube bird feeder because a raccoon ate rancid lasagna on her back porch that she left out there for a week. But she thought nothing of dumping this bleach water all over anybody else's stuff. So that brings me full circle back to what I saw in the news this morning. People complaining about each other and neighbors has gotten to this level where we're now suing people because of the wild birds they have over their roofline. And again, this is just my opinion. It's not any commentary about the individual people. I just want to say that with my experience with the woman in the bleach water and then the raccoon issue, I just feel like we can do better. I'm actually at a loss of words. Back in my day, Gen X, 70s, 80s, live and let live. That was basically how we felt about it. You go on about your business, we'll go on about our business. You do your thing, I do my thing. Okay? Now, you can't even do your thing because somebody's over there complaining about you or writing somebody about you or suing you. It's absolutely atrocious, in my opinion, that, you know, people don't take accountability for what they do. They only see what other people do. It's their way, and your way is wrong every single time, it seems. And that's not really the right way. So just remember, there's a line here. If it's going to do somebody harm unjustly, then don't cross that line. Always strive to do good, because you never know what somebody's going through. And I guarantee you, when you look in a mirror, the mirror is looking back. And I say that in the most kind way possible. Back in my day, there was a phrase, I don't know how often it's still used: people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. And that's the bottom line. People complain where there really isn't anything to complain about. But the problem is, it causes harm. Thank you so much for watching today. Take care.